Hey everyone, welcome back to Cooking with Claudio. Today we're going to be making an awesome recipe, one of my favorites. It's a butternut squash, sausage, and sage risotto. It's going to be a lot of fun, so let's get cooking. So to make this risotto, we're going to need a few things. If you take a look, we got a nice butternut squash. We're going to be dicing it up into cubes. We have an onion. We're going to be cutting it up, dicing it very finely. We have some sage that we're going to be dicing finely. We have some sausage. I have 2 links here. You can use as much or as little as you like. I will just be crumbling it, so taking it out of the casing and frying it in a pan. We have about a cup of rice. I like to use Arborio rice. That's traditionally what's used for risottos, but you can use whatever you like. We have some white wine, and then we have a chicken stock that I made earlier today that's boiling right now. So we're going to be using all that to make this awesome risotto. Alright, so now we've got some butter and some oil sitting in this pan. First step, we're going to actually brown our sausage. So we're going to toss it in here. I've taken them out of the casing. And as it's in the pan, we're just going to break it up with our spatula. Alright, so now I've browned my sausage a bit. I noticed the pan I was using was a little too small, so I just went with something with a bigger circumference. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in those onions and that sage. And as well as the butternut squash. We're going to add it in there and we're going to let it cook. You don't want to cook it on too high a temperature. You just want to let it go at a nice low temperature to get some color. Alright, so now it's time to add our rice. You'll notice I've made a little hole in the middle here. We're going to add our rice right in there, right onto the bottom. We just want to let it toast a little bit. By toasting, I just mean have it absorb some of that oil that's in the pan already before we go ahead and put in any stock or anything. So now we're just going to be adding some broth to our rice now that it's been toasted a bit. You want enough just so it covers all the rice. Some of the biggest, I don't want to say a myth because there is some truth to it, but some of the biggest risotto fanatics say that you have to stir risotto nonstop for hours and hours. Not true. I'm going to show you that the risotto can come just as good, and we're going to pretty much let it be for the most part. So we're just going to wait till this actually reduces. Once it reduces, we'll check in on it, and we'll add some more to it. Alright, so we're checking in back on the risotto now. If you want to take a look at this, this is how you know it's time to add more liquid. When you run your spatula or your spoon and you leave a trail of nothing. So what I'm going to add, I'm actually going to add some white wine now. You can add it at any point in the cooking. I like to add it now because we're going to put another couple rounds of broth after. The reason being is if you add it right at the end, you're going to have a more pronounced wine flavor. At least now it'll kind of cook off a bit, so you only have a little bit of it. And again, cover it just as much to cover the rice. And let it reduce. When it reduces, we're going to be adding more chicken broth. We're going to do this about 3 to 4 more times until the rice gets cooked. Alright, let's take a look. Yeah, we got that tail. So what we're going to do, add one more little bit of broth. Cover it up. Perfect. Alright, so now that we've put in our round of wine, a few rounds of broth, how do we know it's done? Really, it's just tasting, so making sure that the rice is no longer crunchy and that the butternut squash in here is actually cooked and not super hard. So the final step, and the most important, is actually to put in a couple knobs of butter. Be very generous with the butter. You're going to stir it into everything. And once that melts, we're going to finish it off with, again, another generous helping of Parmesan cheese. You can use any cheese you like. I like Parmesan. And you can use pecorino, which is a sheep's cheese. But Parmesan works just as well. You're going to mix it all together, and this should pull it all very together. If it's a bit watery, this will help it tighten up. You're going to mix it together, and once everything combines, your risotto is as good as done. So now for our garnish that's going to go on top of the risotto, I'm actually going to fry up a couple of sage leaves. They're going to become nice and crispy and give it some extra crunch right on top. So we've got some oil heating up in a pan right now. All we're going to do is we're going to drop the sage leaf. You're going to see it start to crackle. That's all the water that's evaporating from it. So let it crackle. Once it stops crackling, we're going to flip it, do the same to the other side, and there we go. Alright, our sage is done now, nice and crispy. We're just going to drop it on a paper towel lined plate to soak up any of that excess oil. Okay, so now for plating, we're just going to scoop our risotto, put it into a plate. I want to press it down so it fills everything. And then we're just going to finish off with those sage leaves that we had fried.